Given the House is due to rise on Thursday, Mr. Speaker, and given the length of the publication, the second tranche will now be published after Whitsun recess to give the House sufficient time to review the material and to be able to ask me and the government questions, Mr. Speaker. It could have been published this Thursday, Mr. Speaker, but I felt that the House would deem that to be inappropriate, given it will be such a significant publication. Mr. Speaker, I just refer back to my previous comments. This will be the largest publication, other than I think the Chilcot Inquiry report, ever published to the House. When the government publishes this second tranche of documents, we will also publish a methodology confirming the process we have followed, and it will be clear from the published information the basis on which content has been redacted. The targeted redactions made to the material, beyond those made relevant to national security or international relations, have been made in line with clear precedent set by previous administrations in responding to humble addresses. As I said out to the House on the 23rd of February, and again when we published the first tranche of material on the 11th of March, we have taken the normal approach to redacting junior officials' names, contact details like telephone numbers and email addresses, the personal data of third parties where this is not in scope of the motion, and where relevant, legal professional privilege.
So does the Minister accept that if the government wants to argue that the humble address is too broad as drafted and needs to be refined, it must come to this House and make that argument and get the House's consent for any alteration? Does he further accept that without doing so, when the next set of documents is published with information withheld, then the government will not succeed in persuading this House or the wider world that this matter is closed? And finally, does he accept that if the government takes it upon itself to redact or withhold information contrary to the terms of the humble address it agreed to be bound by in February, that would be an issue not just of process, but of parliamentary sovereignty?
Secretary Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In relation to the questions from the Right Honourable Gentleman about compliance with the humble address, I refer him to the statement I made previously in relation to the principles set out in legislation and the motions of this House, as I set out. I think he's asking me specifically about personal data that was collected as part of the security vetting process. And as I think he alluded to in his answer, the raw data that is collected as part of those investigations, which, for example, might relate to how much money you have in a particular account or who you may have had a personal relationship with in the past, that raw data would never be published, because if we did so, people would feel unable to answer those questions honestly and frankly in any UK security vetting investigation in the future, which would undermine the very basis of our national security system.
Speaker, I rise to support the ISC in their carefully considered concerns, and I am disappointed at the answer that the government has given. It seems to me that one of the questions in relation to the Mandelson appointment is why it is when the UK SV document had 2 red boxes ticked, which included this man should not be appointed, that somehow or other that was translated into he should be appointed. And it is very important that the public know and understand that we are learning from the mistakes that were clearly made, and we cannot know that lessons have been learned unless they are checked. And the committees in this House, my committee and the ISC, are trying our best to get to the truth of this, and we are having obstacles put in our way. It's for that reason I believe that with proper redactions, it should be that the ISC are allowed to look at this file to understand why it was that mitigations could be put in place in order to make us safe when it came to the appointment of Peter Mandelson.